of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Accustom yourself to remain at peace in the depth of your heart in spite of your restless imagination. This is the quotation. Peace anywhere seems to be wishful thinking during these days of turmoil within and violences without. Peace of mind, peace of heart, peace of home, peace of country, peace of world, peace of cosmos, it does not matter which. The same sense of pinpoint unreality pervades. There seems to be a vast stirring of energy, malignant and unstructured, that catapults to the surface all kinds of disharmonies, conflicts, and disorders. The Middle East, the Far East, South Africa, North Africa, West Africa, Hungary, Poland, France, Germany, Russia, the Indian nations of the Americas, continental United States viewed by section, state, or city, always there is present the turbulent quality, the out-of-hand aspect of the common life. Years ago, a freelance writer visited Dr. Locke, the famous Canadian physician. You may recall that the technique he used in treatment of bodily ills had to do with foot manipulation. A little crippled girl sat in the chair before the doctor. Very gently he began massaging her crippled limb. Then he gave the foot a sudden manipulation. The girl screamed. A shudder went through the people waiting their turn. In the afternoon, the writer saw the father of the little girl. She offered her sympathy. "Thank you very much," said the father, "but you do not understand. When my daughter first came here several weeks ago, the doctor could do anything to her foot, and she could not feel it. When I heard her cry aloud this morning, I said, 'Thank God, life is in her foot at last.' The stirring of energy in myriad forms of unstructured malevolences may well be the spirit of life of God at work in behalf of new life and perhaps a new creation on this planet. We must find our place in the areas of the new vitalities, the place where the old is breaking up and the new is being born. What a moment to be alive, and more importantly, to be aware. Of course, this we cannot do unless we are able to gather into ourselves the wise caution of Fénelon. Accustom yourself to remain at peace in the depth of your heart, in spite of your restless imagination. During this month, and particularly the very end of the month, on Memorial Day, there will be much thought and much talk about peace and about the sacrifices that men have made on the battlefields of the world on behalf of ideals which to them were real and significant. But today I want you to think about peace in another dimension, to think about peace as a quality of the inner life and the internal aspect of one's being. There is a kind of peace that is the peace of innocence. It is the peace of the little child. It is the peace that we sense sometimes in the carefree playing of little puppies in the grass. It is the peace of innocence, a peace that has never been exposed to the tensions of existence, a peace that has never been involved in the fundamental and often ruthless conflict between that which is good and that which is evil, the conflict that is inherent in the contradictions of experience. Now, if children are not permitted to have this kind of peace, this kind of peace that is the peace of innocence, then something very terrible happens to them. For during the period of the peace of innocence, during the period of the unassailed and untested and unexamined tranquillities, the little organism of the child is laying a sound track, a fundamental basis for the future health and activity of the child. Now, if this important neurological and physiological process is interfered with because the child is robbed of his childhood, if it is interfered with because the child is not permitted to be innocent, but is forced to deal with his environment as if he were an adult, then the nervous system of the child becomes so impaired and sometimes so fundamentally dislodged from its rightful setting, context, meaning, and place that the child becomes antisocial. The child strikes out in a kind of anger and a kind of violence that is upsetting to the mind and very destructive to the common life. Therefore, one of the functions of those of us who are adult is to build the kind of windbreak, the kind of wall of protection behind which the innocence of children can be guaranteed and underscored. Now this is one kind of peace, the peace of innocence. Now there's another kind of peace that has to do with the inner life of man. It is the peace of exhaustion. It is the peace that comes when the individual has emptied himself of all energies, when he has laid himself on the line and put at the disposal of some overwhelming demand or overwhelming need the total resources of his life, and there is nothing left with which to do anything for a while. In the old part of the Rock Creek Cemetery in Washington, there is a very amazing memorial built over the grave of the wife of Henry Adams. It's a St. Gorton statue. It is the figure of a woman seated in a huge chair. Her whole body is covered with a kind of greenish bronze cloth, what would be cloth if it were a living thing, and her arm is resting on the arm of the chair. Her right arm is resting on the right arm of the chair. Her chin is also resting in her hands, and she is looking straight out in front of her. And as you sit there watching her face, it suddenly dawns upon you that these eyes at which you are looking are eyes that have emptied themselves of all tears, that there isn't a single emotion left. She has moved all the way through the rugged tensions of weeping and feeling and landed out on the other side in a kind of barren waste. Now there is the peace that comes from exhaustion, when there is no quivering of the mind or spirit left. Then there's another kind of peace, the peace that comes in endurance and triumph. It is the peace that perhaps is related more specifically to what we mean by goodness. Goodness, for instance, as contrasted with innocence. We say that a child is good, is innocent, rather. We do not say that a child is good, if we're speaking accurately. We do not say that a man is innocent. We may say that a man is good, for there is an element that is triumphant about goodness. A man has worked his way through the tensions and triumphed over them. Goodness represents a kind of creative synthesis of meaning. It is more than innocence. When a man has learned how, for instance, to distill peace out of disorder, when he's learned how to distill goodness out of that which is not good, when he has learned how to winnow beauty out of ugliness, there is something triumphant about this. It is a goodness that is triumphant. The organizer, the founder of the Ethical Culture Society of America has suggested the meaning that I have in mind in a very wonderful paragraph. He says that if a man is sick and gets well, or is hungry and gets food, or is lonely and finds a friend, he can understand the sense of well-being that comes over him. But the peace that passeth understanding, the peace of God, is the peace that comes when the pain of life is not relieved. It is the peace that comes shimmering on the crest of a wave of pain. It is the spear of frustration transformed into a shaft of light. This is the authentic inner peace. And the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer.